You're tuning in to Why We're Here, honest conversations about companies worth joining, with Amit Matani, CEO of Wellfound.
Hey everybody, I am here with Lukas Haffer, the co-founder and CEO of Casca. Lukas, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about Casca. What do you all do?
Casca is a software company that helps banks originate small business and generally business loans faster using AI. So we help the lenders, underwriters, credit officers, closers at the bank that try to help small business owners live their American dream by giving them the tools to do their job much faster and much better.
That's really interesting. So tell me a little bit about the founding story. Where did the idea originate to focus on this particular area?
Yeah, I mean, I spent my whole career building, maintaining, deploying really large, complex banking software. And then I spent 2 years at Stanford doing machine learning research. That's where I met my co-founder, Isaiah. We were best friends all throughout Stanford. We were doing hackathons, always winning, and just generally having a lot of fun building cool stuff. And then at some point we realized that the technology that was right in front of our eyes in the classroom at Stanford really had the potential to automate 90% of the manual work in the sector that I had spent my whole career in, which was banking. And so after I graduated, Isaiah forced me to start this company with him. I think that's the best way to frame this. I was graduating with like $150,000 in student debt, and I'm a kind of risk-averse German dude. So I thought I'm going to get a job in big tech and like I'm going to do something cool, something impactful with the new skill set that I have. And Isaiah said, no, there's an AI revolution happening right now, and we have the chance to make a huge impact on the world. We're doing this. And so that's the rest of the story. And for the last 2 years, we spend our time sitting down with folks at small community banks all the way up to some of the largest lenders in the country, trying to understand what they do in a typical day. What are the things that are particularly manual, repetitive, tedious, and how can we build tools that make their life easier? The reason why we ended up in small business lending specifically is because we saw the biggest potential for impact there. When we started out, we were thinking about all the possible problems in the banking sector, and we had a long list of everything from the front of the bank to the back office of the bank, of things that are manual, tedious, that both the CEO of a bank knows is a problem and also the people that have to do it every day know it's a problem. And as we went through investigating which area could have the biggest impact on the world, we landed in small business lending, because if you're running a small business in the US right now, access to capital is usually your number one problem. And if you're trying to look for funding as a small business, you right now essentially have two bad options. You either go to a community bank that will give you the lowest possible interest rate, the best conditions for you to get funding to grow your business, but it's going to take forever. And forever means like the average time to close an SBA loan, which is typically the lowest interest rate small business loan, is 90 days, and ain't nobody got time for that. And on the other side, you can go to one of the many, many, many online lenders that will give you your money very quickly, but then you have a rude awakening when you realize now you're paying 45% APR, and these astronomical interest rates are rampant in that industry of online lenders. So I can't fix the fact that the online lenders just have high cost of capital, but what I can fix is the fact that the community banks of America have bad technology, and I can build them better technology.
How did you guys decide to kind of zero in on that? Was it that you've had the experiences, or was it like going out and having these conversations where you realized that the SBA problem was, more ripe for disruption than others?
It's a mixture of things. We definitely had a million conversations with everyone from bank CEOs, CTOs, heads of operations, chief credit officers to ask them, what is your biggest problem today? And we also, at some point, walked into every bank branch in all of San Francisco and just asked the people. But for us, it's also more personal. For my co-founder, Isaiah, he was raised on the income of his mom from her running her small business. And so he knew the problem firsthand, and it felt very personal.
That's really cool. So I want to hear more about how your co-founder forced you into this, because this is interesting. So it seems like, did you guys have this idea beforehand, or is it like, hey, there's a revolution happening, we can't be left out, so we have to do it, even if we don't have like an idea right now?
The honest answer is we were always working on projects, and none of them were a business.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks before graduation, I'm visiting my co-founder in New York. He had started a job there at a top kind of AI company where he was running an ML team. And like in my mind, he had made it. Like I'm visiting him in Manhattan. We're on the 40th floor. He just got married. I was at his wedding. I like promised to his mom to always take good care of him. And like I'm seeing him prosper. He's there in this like great environment. And I'm visiting him together with my fiance. We are like sleeping on the couch in his living room, and he like comes out of his bedroom and says, like, looks at me, says, "Lukas, I'm going into the office on Monday and I'm going to tell them I'm quitting my job because we're starting a company together." And then he turns around and goes back into his bedroom. I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? So I get up, I knock on the door, and he's like, "Yeah, come in." And I open the door. His wife looks at me weirdly, "What's happening here?" And I tell him, "Isaiah, man, I'm worried about you. Like, look at yourself. You've made it. Like, look at where you came from." Like, he grew up relatively poor in the American South. And like, here he is, like graduated from Stanford, has this top job. And he's like willing to put it all on the line. And I tell him, we don't even know what we're building yet. Like, you can't just start a company like that. And so I see it in his eyes, how he's weighing my words carefully, and then responds, "We might not know what we're building yet, but there's an AI revolution happening, and it's happening without us. And we have a unique skill set to build something meaningful here in the world." And then he says, I appreciate your care for me, but I've saved up enough money to live on ramen for a year. And so I'm laughing, I leave. And the next day I'm flying home and I realize I did not save up enough money to live on ramen for a year. In fact, I've got $100K student debt that I'll have to pay back. And I do realize that when he says we'll figure out what we are building, what he means is Lukas will figure out what we're building. And he's ready to build it. He's the CTO. So on the flight back, I'm writing down all of the big problems that I had seen throughout my career. And I'm writing down all of the big problems I'd seen in my career in banking, and all of the big things that bank CEOs, CTOs had complained to me about over the years. And I create this pitch deck, which is basically just a thesis on we can take AI and solve all of these problems piece by piece. I mean, we had just spent 2 years at the cutting edge of research, and we realized that the current existing banking providers, they weren't in the room at Stanford. They didn't realize that this revolution was happening right now. They are sitting on 30-plus-year-old technology stacks that won't very quickly get modernized. And on the other side, we see that the folks at Stanford that do realize that this revolution is happening, they have no clue about what's happening in the banking sector. Like, they don't know what a core banking system is, what a loan origination system is, and they don't care. They care about their next research project. They care about the federated learning and the quantization of models, which is cool. Like, someone should be working on these research projects, but in order to have a real impact in the real world, you need to take those concepts out of the classroom and bring them out into like people's hands. And so when I land, I have a pitch deck of like 10 slides with a high-level thesis of us being able to solve these like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problems that no one was able to solve over the past 20 years because the technology just wasn't there. And I take that pitch deck and I submit it to a pitch competition at Stanford, like a venture capital, like pitch your startup, get some funding. And I submit an application to Y Combinator, write a little script and force my co-founder to record it like 70 times with me until we have the perfect take. That's exactly the message. And then nothing happens for like a week or two. And then we get feedback from that pitch competition. They're like, oh, we would like you to present to our investment committee. We present to the investment committee. And we get feedback from Y Combinator. My co-founder indeed went into the office, quit his job, told them we got into YC. And for the record, we had not even gotten into YC. Like this guy is just, he like sees the future and he goes for it, which that's the reason why I love him. And so then turns out my preparation like did work, and we do get the interview. After 10 minutes of Y Combinator interview, they tell us, you've made it, you're getting in. Which was another funny situation because they call us after the interview, and Jared, who was our group partner at YC, says, okay, guys, we just got a couple more questions. Isaiah, you live in New York. We're just wondering whether you're willing to come to the Bay Area if you got into the YC badge. And Isaiah's like thinking, I mean, my lease is until the end of the year. So like, do I have to come? And I'm like, shut up. We are coming. We're moving immediately. And they're like, cool. Well, then welcome to the badge. And so we get into YC, and right on the day of my graduation, we pack up all of my stuff at Stanford and we drive my little Mini Cooper to the Y Combinator badge kickoff. And there we are. The journey has started, and we're starting this company with a high-level thesis of bringing AI into the banking sector, of being the one sector experts for utilizing the technologies that we have experienced in the Stanford classroom into the banking world. And over the course of a couple of months throughout the YC badge, we like narrowed down on small business lending as our starting point. And then over the last 2 years, we build out a team. We find the right design partners, customers that we work with very, very closely in order to build out this solution that by now is becoming the market leader in the space of loan origination. And partnering with more and more customers, bringing in a larger and larger team. And now we're 35 people. We work with both the two top SBA lenders in the country, and now we're expanding rapidly into more and more loan categories, doing commercial loans, so building larger and larger things, commercial real estate loans, and now the future is bright, not small things.
Awesome. Isaiah quite had the right conviction, saw the future, like you said. That's awesome. So, it seems like you guys have done extremely well, as you've mentioned. You guys just raised a bunch of money for your Series A pretty quickly after you started. What do you feel like the investors saw in this? Like, what kind of traction are you guys showing, or what about the business allowed you guys to raise so quickly? I mean,
yeah, we raised a little over $33 million in total in the last 2 years, and most of that funding actually comes from banks. It actually comes from our customers. It's the folks that we started working with, and that very quickly saw the massive impact it has on their daily operations and how this is going to fundamentally change the way people work in the banking sector. As someone who used to spend 20 hours sifting through thousands and thousands of pages of PDFs, financial documents, and then take the information out, put it into an Excel file, do an analysis, and then type it into 1, 2, 3 old legacy systems, who now with Casca just logs in the morning and sees the results of all the analysis, and it's already in the system, and all they need to do is like take a look to make sure that the numbers are correct. It's like that transformation of manual, tedious, repetitive work to pure insight, immediate insight. And it's the like bank leaders that see the potential of cutting down a 90-day loan cycle to 3 days, to give the businesses the money faster, to be able to close more loans, get more money out into the community, have a massive impact on the world, but also just be commercially very successful.
You mentioned that banks tend to be slower in modernizing their tech stack and stuff. So what allowed you guys to get in there so quickly, especially as such a small startup, and start showing value?
I think over the last 10, 20 years, the majority of Silicon Valley talent just didn't direct their attention towards building software for the banking sector. Instead, people started their own fintechs that were looking to compete with the banks. And very few of those fintechs actually gained a major part of the market. The major part of America is still banking through the traditional banking system. Yeah. And kind of the top tech talent just didn't go to build that kind of software. On our side, we just came in with that expertise of building software for banks, building for a highly regulated sector where you have to know the rules of the game. It's like security and compliance are not optional. They are not like
Mhm.
tedious things to avoid. They are differentiating. They are the reason why someone can trust our software and can work with our software. Even though we are a relatively young company, it's actually always an improvement. It's an argument for working with our software because it's more compliant than what they were using before. It's worrying more about the regulation for them so they don't need to worry. And so I think that in the past 10, 20 years, like Silicon Valley just didn't know how to build software for banks or didn't want to know.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, so building for banks, one of the issues you mentioned, security is one of the things. I'm sure compliance, accuracy, all this stuff is really important.
Yeah.
Obviously, LLMs in some way are probabilistic, hallucinate, and stuff like that. So, how does that affect how you guys build? Is that a big challenge for you? Have you solved that? Like, what are the big challenges kind of building for a bank versus building for like a consumer or normal B2B type of application?
Yeah, let's start with the fact that AI is probabilistic. When AI
Yeah.
is probabilistic, that means you can't let AI make the decisions on
Yep.
its own. So for us, our belief is that using AI responsibly in the banking sector means being always human in the loop,
Mm,
being fully explainable and fully auditable, which
mm,
means if I analyze 1,000 pages of financial documentation for you and I create a model for you, I still don't make the lending decision. AI does not automatically approve or reject this person. AI now shows you the analysis. You just don't have to spend the 20 hours to get there.
mm,
You just see the immediate analysis. And as you look at the numbers, you can see where I got every single number from, with a citation of exactly from which document did I grab this. And as you make changes, as AI proposes changes, we are logging every activity. So it's fully auditable how we arrived at the end result, which is now a lender saying, yes, based on the analysis, it makes sense. We should give them the $500,000 to build a second building to expand their dental practice.
That's really cool. When you think about, some of the better decisions you made or some of the decisions you wish you could have kind of taken back over the last couple of years, like what are some of those things? Especially like within building the product itself.
I think I lean towards like thinking about the people I want to surround myself with,
Mm,
not just internally with the team members that we bring on, where for us what is absolutely like non-negotiable is that we surround ourselves with kind, good people. Because you spend a lot of time together in a startup working, oftentimes like until late at night. And it's an amazing experience and a great time if you like the people that are around you. So that was very important to us right from the start. But it also impacts the customers that you work with and the investors you surround yourself with. And so for us, that meant actually saying no to quite a bunch of customers because we knew that early on in the lifetime of our company, we would work very closely with our customers. And so there are engineers now on my team that spend like 4 hours a day with one of the employees at one of the banks that we work with in order to build something new. And so for us, it was very important to actually select customers that we feel like have a good culture.
mm,
And that paid off really well because we bring on a lot of engineering talent from Silicon Valley. People like us that went to Stanford, went to Berkeley, and like are excellent engineers with relatively little previous knowledge about the banking sector.
mm,
So that means our customers are often actually the ones teaching and onboarding. And so I think one of the best decisions we made was to have really strong partnerships with really good organizations that we know we want our people to interact with, that take the time to explain things. And
mm,
like fast forward a year and every of our engineers is an expert in the thing that they worked on, whether it's a feature that goes towards making compliance with regulation easier, whether it's a feature that is making the underwriting and the analysis of the financials of a small business easier. It is because we partnered with good people that will take the time to explain things. I think that was probably the best decision that we made, just surrounding ourselves with
yeah.
good people. The same goes for investors. The folks that serve on our board are former founders themselves. They know what building great companies is like, and they are experts in the sector that we're in, which just makes for like really positive interactions. Like when we're in crunch time for a project, like they know we're in crunch time and they will ask, how can I help? And they will provide help. Rather than like, I'm sure there are lots and lots of investors that are like purely numbers driven. They might not have the insight into your sector, so they might not actually be able to be helpful. And so I think surrounding ourselves with good people is probably the best decision we made early on.
So, what are other things that you look for in people? So, kind is one thing, but in terms of hiring your team, I also saw one of your values is kind of finding competitive people. What else do you guys like look for? And tell me a little bit about why.
Yeah, that's in Isaiah's and my background. Isaiah and I, one of the first things that we became friends over was actually playing League of Legends. Like,
Nice. Okay.
we met on Stanford campus, and after 5 minutes of conversation, I made a metaphor of explaining something about how teams work using League of Legends as an example. And he responded, "Wait, you play League?" And so one of the first things that we became friends over was playing League of Legends together. And I was one of the best players in the world for a long time. Like I actually played way too much League of Legends for it to be healthy. And I saw that same competitive spirit in Isaiah, who both played League of Legends competitively, but also played the Pokemon trading card game to a level where at some point he became the Pokemon trading card game world champion, which is an insane feat. It's crazy. I also was a competitive athlete for a large part of my life. I did competitive judo, international tournaments, etc. And I think one of the lessons that you learn from being a competitive athlete or a competitive gamer is that you yourself are the only common denominator in all of the matches that you play. Which means if over time you're losing more and more, you're the problem. It's not your team around you. And there are lots of people that when playing online games, they rage about everything that's going wrong around them. Oh my God, this is buggy and it's the system's fault, or like this person on my team, they are failing and it's their fault. But I think what it teaches you, if you make it to the highest levels of these disciplines, the only way to get there is to continuously look at yourself. After every match, ask yourself, what could I have done better to increase our probability of winning by just a little bit more? And if you keep going like this, you become one of the best in the world at what you do. And that is something that we look for in the people that we bring onto our team today. It's the insight that you yourself are the only common denominator in all of the interactions that you have, in every project that you work on, in every feature that you work on. And so if your things are working out more and more over the long run, it's because you are reflecting constantly on what you can do better, which just makes for an insane growth mindset. It's a world where there's no ego. Like someone can look at something that I built and tell me, this makes absolutely no sense. And I get curious because I see it as an opportunity to improve my skill set, to improve the thing that I'm building. And so that is the DNA of our company. It's like no ego. Everyone is trying to get constantly better. Everyone is practicing. Every new thing that we do is an opportunity to learn something ourselves.
So it's not really competitive. It's like desire to win and like the belief that self-improvement and growth can kind of take you there versus like ego or something else like that getting in the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe a better way of phrasing it.
So
that's why you're the podcaster.
So tell me, what's the pitch? Like, you get an engineer on the line telling them about the company. Why work at Casca? Why is it a great place to work?
The reason why engineers join Casca over working at Anthropic, OpenAI, or working at a big tech company is because they want to have a big real world impact with the technology skill set that they have built up over the last couple of years. So some of the best engineers in the world decide to join Casca because they want to work directly with users. We have a forward deployed model where you work directly with users to solve big problems. And we work in a like pretty full stack kind of way, where you as an individual engineer, you can be the one who talks to the user to understand what the problem is, who designs the solution, who builds everything from the front end to the back end for it, who gets it out into the hands of the users and pitches it. And then over time sees whether it succeeds. Like you get to see your own work either succeed or you get to learn from it and you get to constantly iterate until in the end you have this full stack skill set, which allows you to do something useful in the world, and which I think also sets people up well for being founders in the future, because you learn the entire full stack skill set from discovering problems, solving problems, pitching them, and getting them out into the real world.
That's awesome. Last question. As you guys enter the next year, like, what are the big things that you're most excited about for the organization?
We have a really large pipeline of larger and larger bank customers that have more and more clients, millions and millions of clients that want to launch on Casca. That means that the impact that our company will have on the world will increase by 100x over the next 12 to 18 months. And for me, that's exciting. That's what I built software for having a big impact on the world, helping get billions and billions of dollars into the hands of small businesses in America, helping save thousands and thousands of hours of tedious manual work that nobody wanted to do to begin with, and seeing my own features go into the real world. And like, I kind of get excited about the thought of seeing the new things every time I bring them out, either cause like sparks of joy and I get SMS and Slack messages from customers saying, oh my God, I just tried the new thing, it's amazing. Or seeing them fail and realizing that like that it's still a hard game to play, where it isn't easy. Not everything that you do works out always, and somehow that makes the game more exciting to me.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lukas. It was a pleasure to learn more about Casca. If people want to learn more, where should they go?
Go to our website, go to cascading.ai.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Bye, Amit.
Thank you for listening to Why Work Here. Ready to find your next role or discover top talent? Visit us at wellfound.com.